SEBI, which is the markets regulator, has barred IIFL Securities from onboarding new client for a period of good 2 years on the grounds that it breached code of conduct and regulations. Krishna joining us to talk more on that. Krishna, what exactly are the allegations here?
Right, Shweta, this is part of SEBI, the market regulators' investigations into the books of IIFL Securities from 2011 to 2017. Incidentally, this particular inspection took place in 2014, and it tracked the books of IIFL from 2011 to 2013, and the inspection began in 2014. And in the time, it's been more than 6 years of investigation into IIFL's books, and the SEBI incidentally had issued a show cause notice to IIFL in 2017 in the month of May, and in 2021, in the year 2021 in the month of October. 2 show cause notices were issued to IIFL, and now comes this order which essentially bars IIFL Securities from taking on any new clients for the next 2 years, and that's because, according to SEBI's investigation, IIFL Securities has failed to differentiate its own funds from that of its clients' funds, and that it has also misused a lot of those funds. And all of these are, and SEBI, in fact, in its order has said that, can't wait for, the whole thing to blow up before we take action. And, can't wait for a default is what SEBI said before we take action. So SEBI cracking down on IIFL Securities, and for now, it cannot take on new clients for 2 years. It has to explain it to SEBI. Incidentally, IIFL Securities has appealed to the Securities Appellate Tribunal, or the SAT, against SEBI's order, and IIFL has come out and said that the current transactions, the current clientele will not be affected. The current flow of funds will not be affected by SEBI's order, and that it will appeal against the SEBI order at the Securities Appellate Tribunal. That's the latest coming in. And more importantly, this order that came in yesterday evening has started to impact the IIFL stock when it opened for trading this morning. The IIFL stock is currently down around nearly 19% ever since trading opened, because of this news that SEBI is barring IIFL Securities from onboarding any new clients for the next 2 years. And SEBI making it very clear that this is a matter that needs to be urgently taken up, can't wait for a default to happen. And in fact, the technicality-wise, SEBI has found that IIFL has flagrantly violated a 1993 SEBI circular and has failed to segregate its own funds from that of its clients. All these are the details emerging from SEBI's order and an investigation that went on for more than 6 years, after which 2 show cause notices were issued to IIFL. Nothing happened, and now finally SEBI has come out and completely barred IIFL Securities from onboarding 2 clients. And the IIFL Securities stock is down 19%, Shweta. So we'll have to see whether IIFL's appeal against the SEBI order at the Securities Appellate Tribunal will give the company any relief or not.
Okay. How about the current clientele of IIFL, people who've invested money, people who've used services? Do they have anything to worry about, or about their funds with IIFL?
Said, along with the statement, when it said that we are appealing the SEBI order against the Securities Appellate Tribunal, has already made it clear, IIFL Securities has made it very clear, the current clientele, the current funds will not be affected by the SEBI order.
Okay, the current clientele will not be affected, but the stock is down as much as 18%, 19% latest, what Krishna is saying. These are some very serious allegations and violation of norms laid out by SEBI. Specifically, a lot of people would be worried at this point in time, Karthik, people who have funds with IIFL, as to what the larger impact could be.
No, but I think the job of the market regulator is to protect those very people who have invested in the markets using the services of a player like IIFL, and hence I think the preemptive step of not waiting for IIFL Securities to default has prompted SEBI to get into action. But again, I mean, does it really take 8 years? The investigation started in 2014. Does it take 8 years, 9 years almost? We are in 2023. Does it take 9 years for barring of a fraudulent or an alleged fraudulent security company take? I mean, it should not take about a decade. That is grouse number one. But I think the case is interesting because of its complexities. So from what I understand, and Krishna, you might be able to correct me if my understanding is wrong, but from what I understand, this was a case where 4 bank accounts were opened by IIFL Securities, including bank accounts with private banks, where all the money that the investors investing into the market through IIFL Securities, they parked their money there, and IIFL Securities parked its own money in the same accounts without really differentiating between a client account and its own account.
Okay.
Which means there is this large pool of corpus not segregated between client A, client B, client C, client D and the company itself, rather this one large pool in which all the inflows would go and from which all the outflows would happen. So in a sense, all clients with a credit balance were pretty much taking the hit on their money for all clients with a debit balance in the same holding accounts with IIFL Securities. So broadly, it's a very complicated book that got maintained, books of accounts that got maintained by IIFL, where it became increasingly difficult to audit and understand the money resident in those 4 bank accounts belonged in what proportion to whom. And that led to, these long investigations and about a decade to finally get to bar IIFL Securities. But IIFL, I remember back in the day, was one of the better, more trusted brokers and interfaces to go ahead and trade. So the investigation has been on for a while. It should not have taken a decade during which thousands, maybe lakhs of other clients would have been onboarded by IIFL Securities in the same financial trap that it was operating in. Right, Krishna? Is that broadly what the case is about?
So, Karthik, just to add to what you were saying, you were talking about the length of the period of investigation. SEBI did issue, as I've been talking about, a show cause notice to IIFL in 2017 and in 2020, as recent as October 2021. It's interesting what went on between 2017 to 2021, as Karthik was rightly pointing about this investigation. And Karthik, this is relates to the books of the company between the years of 2011 and 2013 that got inspected in the year 2014. And eventually, after 3 years of investigation, a show cause notice was issued in 2017. And then again in 2021 October. So it's, as along with the complexities that Karthik you mentioned, it gets even more complicated to understand why it took so long. And as you're rightly pointing out, in all this time, all the new clients who have been onboarded, what happens to them? Why were they onboarded when there's such a big cloud of concern over a company like IIFL Securities? And Karthik, also, you're talking about the credit balance. SEBI also says that IIFL misused clients' funds in the credit balance, not just about parking its own funds and not being able to segregate. IIFL also is now accused of misusing clients' funds in the credit balance. So these are very serious allegations, and this is what SEBI was investigating into starting from the year 2014. We are in 2023, nearly a decade since the investigations began, and now we understand that they are finally stopped from onboarding new clients for the next 2 years. And Karthik, bear in mind, even this could be overturned if the Securities Appellate Tribunal thinks otherwise.
Okay.
True. But again, 3 years for show cause notice number 1, 4 years from there for show cause notice number 2. I mean, I think this is a regulator responsible for protecting the wealth of shareholders.
And action literally a decade after it bungled up the books. So the
and hopefully some action, unless SAT overturns it, like Krishna mentioned.
So of course, preemptive action there, but a little too late, as some would say. Literally 10 years after IIFL bungled up its books, it cannot onboard any new clients, customers for a period of 2 years, according to the SEBI order. SAT will be hearing IIFL's plea from here on.